So on the next couple of pages, I'm going to show you what it looks like in the CRM and what that looks like in the marketing automation platform. So first of all, here is just a complete example pipeline. I've got the growth mentor deal. It's 23,000. It's a big one. Looking forward to opening up their checkbook. And unfortunately, they went with the competition. So I need to change this now to close lost in my pipeline. And as I do that, I get asked to select a close loss reason. And as you can see, I can't save this deal until I select a close loss reason. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to select, it was price. I was just too expensive for the team at Growth Mentor for what they were hoping to achieve. So I'm going to click on save. Now that I've done that, that's saved it in my CRM. And because my CRM and automation platforms are integrated, it will trigger a sequence in Autopilot because Autopilot's constantly looking out for any changes to the close loss reasons. Now, the next slide I show you is going to look quite complicated, but it really isn't, and I'll take some time going through each of the sequences. So I will just close this. So here you can see that there is a trigger, a condition, and then an action. And ultimately, every automation pretty much has these three steps. There's either a trigger, then there's a condition, so is this person or is on this list, or has this field completed? And then the action is to send an email, is to send a piece of direct mail if you're using that as your channels to communicate with prospects and customers. So going back to this automation, we can see here that we want to know that in the example pipeline, when the deal stage is close lost, we need to trigger this automation. And what these, what these different conditions here are, they're checking for the close lost reasons. And I'll go through each of them in just a second. Now, with these close loss reasons, depending on what the reason actually is, there's a number of emails that go out to the prospects, as well as notifications to the sales team. It could be that they just be added to a list, and within that list, that triggers a different automation, and I'll explain that in just a second. Like I said, this is just pure example. There isn't content within these emails. The delays, I've just put in the numbers and pulled them out of the air. However, it will take a bit of time for you to understand exactly what the best sequence should be for you. So for example, the first field that we're checking for is if we have lost out to the competition. So if we've lost out to the competition, we want to still communicate with the prospect. And from my experience in recruitment, I used to speak to the companies that I lost out to when another agency placed in that role. And 10 to 20, about around 10% of the time, that candidate that started ended up being no good. So I would check up with the client, with that client that was hiring 30 days after the new hire had started, because within about 30 days, they'll have a feeling whether that person is going to be right for them and their business. And it's exactly the same with the software. So there may be a chance that the prospects that go with your competition might not actually be happy. We've all been there. We've bought a tool, a product, or a service, and it hasn't quite lived up to our expectations, or has lived up to what the marketing site said it would. So here is where you want to continue to nurture and provide content and value to those that have gone with the competition. Now, you may not want to say we're better than X because of this, but you just want to provide value and help them achieve the goals that your product actually provides the solution for. And again, so here as well, this is a notification. This is internal. So this goes to the sales rep who was managing this opportunity. And you may request and add a task for that sales rep to call them, or to send a personal email, or to send a message on social. Again, the different sequences depend on your unique business, your team, and your resources, and your understanding of the market. So these are just examples. Moving on to the second sequence. The close loss reason for this is features. So perhaps they didn't have one of the features or integrations that you needed. So in this case, I've added this prospect who matches this criteria to the roadmap list so that they can be updated when new features are being rolled out. Now, if you had that additional field that I mentioned before and you wrote down the specific feature, you may then want to segment this list even further based on what specific features they were looking for, so that when your product team releases that feature, you can send a message to them. And there's been dozens of companies that have been doing that recently, and it's working extremely well. Moving on to the third sequence in this example, the close loss reason is timing. So again, you'd want to send them content based on if now's not the right time, understanding when is the right time, or what triggers can happen in their career, in their market, in their general day-to-day that would cause them to speed up the time that they would need your product, service, or solution. And again, you have internal notifications here. I've only put in a few emails. This email sequence could last a year. Again, it's completely dependent on your industry and your business. This one is the price. So you may be wanting to communicate why that you don't want to say why your price is expensive, but you can justify it with the social proof of the results that your existing customers are achieving, even though the price is a little bit more expensive than the customer. So it's really focusing on the differentiation positioning of your brand versus the competition there. This one is the need. So they have they just didn't have the need, or they didn't believe they didn't truly understand that they do have the need. So again, produce content, providing value, helping them achieve what it is they do. And again, this is all about planting the seed for them coming back to you when the time is right. This final one here, I haven't actually configured it yet, so let me show you how to do that. So the field is lost reason. It equals, and it's poor qualification. So this is super important. We really want to know the leads and prospects that come into our opportunities that aren't the right, or have been poorly qualified, because that is an area for marketing to improve their qualification process, or the sales team to improve their qualification process. It's really important that you know that information so that you can save time and make sure that you're focusing on the right sales leads and opportunities in the future. And if it is a case of poor qualification, you need to understand why that traffic is coming to your website in the first place. Is your messaging off? Is the content not quite right for explaining the value that your product solves? And here, this would be added to a list, and a notification would go to your marketing or your ops person or your SDR. And I would recommend reviewing these on a bi-monthly basis, either twice a month or once a month, and just try and understand why these people have been poorly qualified to help you kind of close the gap there. And the final part of this is just to have a kind of catch-all element in here. So this trigger is looking for any lead status or contact status that is open. So let's take an example. The close loss reason here was that they that they didn't quite have the need. However, let's say after this email, it could be 2 weeks, could be 6 months down the line, they actually do have a need, or that pain point really arises again, and they come back to your company to help. If that is the case, their status within your CRM would change to open, because they are a contact or a prospect that you're actively working on. So if that was the case, you'd want to eject them from this journey so they don't continue to if they don't continue to receive content related to that that closed lost reason, which no longer applies. So I hope that all makes sense. And look, it looks very daunting, but once you set it up once, it's pretty much a case that you can duplicate these sequences